The Lions prove a point. We're going to break that down for you in all the Week 7 action today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started.
Happy Victory Monday to everyone who is celebrating, including the Seattle Seahawks with a big win over the Atlanta Falcons. We're going to get into that and who this Seahawks team is here today on the show. In addition to touching on last night's game, we're doing all the games, but spotlighting the Steelers' big win over the Jets. We're going to start with the NFC North, Joe, where I think probably the game of the week took place, or at least thus far, the game of the week took place. A nail-biter between two really good football teams in Minnesota and Detroit. The Lions coming out on top, courtesy of a last-second field goal to get this big win in their first game without Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, Lions, man, that's a big win on the road in the division. 5-1 they sit at. Jared Goff playing out of his mind. Over the last 4 games, he's 76 of 91, 83.5%. Had all the answers against the blitz. The run game's cooking. They overcome the failed fake punt. They overcome the David Montgomery fumble. And they get that big last-minute drive there. Bates coming through with the field goal at the end. It's a big win, man. These Lions are rolling. There's so much confidence, and it feels like they're the class of the NFC right now, man.
It does, and it's the ways in which they can win. And I think that's when you get into the way that they've constructed the team. If you want to play pressure, high pressure against them and high strain, Jared Goff has shown a lot of growth. And I know he's performed well against Minnesota in recent games that these two teams have played, but just this heater that he's on now is kind of on a different level. If they need to run the ball, they can run the ball. They have so much variety in what they can do offensively, and Ben Johnson does a great job taking advantage of that. And I want to give some credit to you because when we did quarterback rankings this summer, you were very, and I think this is a pro Jared Goff show, and this was a pro Jared Goff show all offseason, but like you were definitely out of the two of us, the one who was like pounding the table about like, man, Jared Goff's it, right? And this year, he's completing 74% of his passes through the first 6 games. And hasn't had an interception in the last 3 games, and those are big time wins, scoring a ton of points. I mean, what this Detroit team the last 3 weeks has scored 42, 47, and 31. And
Rolling.
Not all of that is on the back of Jared Goff, but Goff is playing as efficient a football as you possibly can in that stretch too. So kudos to you for continuing to pound the table for Jared Goff, and we'll see if it normalizes or if it doesn't. Is Jared Goff going to be in the MVP conversation down the stretch?
He might be the guy right now, right? I mean,
I think right now he would be,
right,
but it's so
right.
early, right? Like,
yeah, nobody wins the MVP in week 7, but certainly building that type of resume. And it's interesting. They get the Titans next, which congratulations on being 6-1. But then at Packers, at Texans, right? That's going to be a fun little stretch of games there to have more challenges for this team. And they keep on answering the call, man. That Bucs game was really goofy, or else they'd be undefeated right now. So they're rolling. And look, Jameson Williams wasn't even part of the equation last night. I thought as like a blitz beater, launch one down the field to Jameson. He had 1 catch for -4 yards, man. They found, like you said, they just find other ways to win. Brian Branch with huge plays on defense, man. It's like,
don't get me started on Brian.
I know.
Branch.
I had to bring him up. I had to poke a little there with
brother. You can go back and check every pre-draft take that existed. The Brian Branch discourse was so dumb, and the league was dumb. Like this is why, like, you lose me with some of your positional value type stuff. On what planet was Brian Branch not a top 16 player in that draft class. Instincts were off the charts. Really good tackler. Great variety of ways in which he can impact the game. The league lives in nickel now. How did he fall out of the first round? Because he ran a 4.6?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Good
And
player,
it's
dude.
just, I mean, the interceptions that he's had the last couple of weeks, I mean, the one in the end zone against Dallas was incredible. He's up to 4 interceptions on the season. This is an all-pro caliber player. And it shouldn't have been a surprise based off his tape, but it is because he ran slow. You know who else ran slower than everybody liked? Kyle Hamilton. What's Kyle Hamilton doing? In the league?
Instincts, brother. Instincts.
How are you doing this at this position? It's unreal. Sorry, I'm done.
So listen, the Green Bay Packers, they win their third in a row, and they're now third place in the NFC North.
Right.
They beat the Texans. Shout out Jeff Hafley, man. He's dialing it up, dude. They're getting some good things going on that defensive side of the football. CJ Stroud, 10 of 21 for 86 yards. That's a complete game. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, obviously the Joe Mixon's kind of been a big part of that offensive equation. Yeah. You can tell they miss Nico Collins, but we can talk about the Texans letting one slip, but how about Green Bay overcoming turnovers, overcoming their kicker issues that have been a problem, it feels like, for the last year and a half. Mm-hmm. McManus, off the street comes in and hits a big field goal to win it. It's a big win for Green Bay, and I think Houston ultimately they're gonna win that division. It's about seeding for them. So if you're going to take an L, take one against the NFC. But a pretty big win here for Green Bay, as that NFC North race is going to be really huge, as they're just now starting to get into their division games. I think there's only like 1 or 2 division games so far in the NFC North. So this was a big win for them to keep pace.
Yeah, and give credit to the Packers defense, not just for how Hafley's dialing it up, but you get first at the 2-minute warning. The Texans are down 2 points at this point. And they're at the plus 12. And you get 2 minus runs in succession for the Packers defense at the plus 12 in the red zone, mid-red zone, inside the final 2 minutes to force Houston to have to kick the field goal and give yourself a chance to only need 3 points to go back and win the game the other way.
Yep.
So, credit to the run defense you mentioned how good Joe Mixon has been for the Texans. They stacked Joe Mixon up twice for minus 5 yards inside the red zone there in that key pivotal moment of that game too.
So 5-2 Green Bay. This NFC North is going to be interesting. We didn't really Minnesota losing. Again, I think there's some chinks in the armor that's been kind of exposed over the last couple of weeks. So we'll see what type of pace they can keep. Obviously nobody wins the division in week 7, but that's going to be a fun race. A lot of good teams there in the NFC North. All right, on the other side of it, I guess we got to talk about the Jets.
Not a lot of good teams in the AFC East, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's the Jets. Obviously, big win for the Chiefs going into San Francisco. We got that and more for you, folks. Be sure to stick with us. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's something that scares you? For me, my personal fear is letting people down that count on me. Halloween lets us have fun with what scares us, but what about those fears that don't involve zombies and ghosts? Therapy is a great tool for facing your fears and finding ways to overcome them, because sometimes the scariest thing is not facing our fears in the first place and holding ourselves back. Therapy is really helpful. It can help you learn positive coping skills, how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you do is fill out a brief questionnaire that'll get you matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including Constitution 101, Introduction to Free Market Economics, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, and so much more. Really fun documentary-style courses as well. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or you can just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon.
It was a big night for New York sports last night. I don't know if you realize this, but the Mets played, the Jets played, and then the WNBA team won the championship last night.
Yeah, but why'd you bring in the Jets, the jersey? I got to do it. I got to do that. You know what I mean?
There's only one New York team.
Yeah, there it is, brother. There it is.
They live in Western New York.
So I get booed off the stage here. Bill's Mafia listening. You know what I mean?
I don't want to spend another show just going down the rabbit hole of the New York Jets and their problems. And I think there's been some really. We can do a whole show on it if we wanted to. But
I'm totally here for this.
Yeah, and there's few things that are getting me through this football season, and the New York Jets football season is one of them.
Hey, we can unite on that for sure.
But it doesn't feel productive to do that segment again because we just did that segment last week. Right. And then it's like, oh, well, Woody Johnson stepped in and ended the Hassan Reddick holdout, and we traded for Davante Adams. And we asked the question when they traded for Davante Adams, is it going to fix all your issues that you have? Nope. Guess what? Davante Adams was targeted 9 times. How many catches do you have?
3.
How many yards do you have?
30? 30, yeah.
Right. 9 targets.
He has chemistry, though, with Aaron Rodgers.
He went from a 2-5 football team to a 2-5 football team. That's all you can say. Credit to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's the story. Yeah.
Really banged up offensive line, and they still smoked the Jets up front. They punched him in the face. And George Pickens, his ability to win contested catches. So if you played this game 10 times, how many times does George Pickens catch like the 4 balls that he caught?
I don't know, man. He keeps doing it.
Right.
He's got Russ Wilson just putting that loft on the ball, baby. He gives you a chance.
It's the Cortland Sutton vibe all over again with Pickens.
No doubt.
Stock up for George Pickens fantasy owners.
Right.
He's going to get endless opportunities. So I think there are times in which you play that game and the script doesn't go the way that it does when the Jets kind of flip it back around, and then Garrett Wilson has the ball that bounces off a chest that's picked up by Steelers fans. Told us about Beanie Bishop.
I know.
All offseason,
I know.
About Beanie Bishop.
Sorry, we didn't know about your UDFA corner. That's all of a sudden
He's going to be the
start.
nickel. He's going to be
from
the nickel.
day one. From day one, Kyle. The guy hadn't even practiced. It's like, oh, Beanie Bishop.
They were like, Beanie Bishop's a huge hit for the Steelers.
Can he practice one time?
Well, he is a big hit because he had 2 picks last night.
Right.
But Pittsburgh, amidst the quarterback change with Russ Wilson, like, it's a great win for them. Great win for them at this stage, and really a tale of 2 different teams with 2 different team-building ideologies that they have tried to realize. And man, Pittsburgh, just again, looks like they're going to be there at the end of the season.
Yeah, man. That's the story. I certainly gave Mike Tomlin a lot of heat for the decision to start Russell Wilson, and so did everybody. And it was interesting. Even you listened to the broadcast team last night talking about this decision, and they talked to Mike Tomlin directly, and they couldn't really answer the question as to why it was happening. He just did it. They just did it.
I just want to see what I have at quarterback.
Right. It's like, okay, because
who gives me a better chance to win games.
Okay, and for this one, it certainly looks great. And I thought the game changed when Russ. It was a quick. He had a free runner in his face. He was able to stop and just kind of like change his arm angle and hit Freiermuth on that little pass that went for a bunch of yards. Like, I felt like that was the absolute turning point in the game. So the YOLO balls to George Pickens were nice, but that was one heck of a completion. And Najee Harris has got some momentum right now. Defensively, this front is really, really good, man. They can get after you, and I think it's kind of a perfect storm. A little bit home game. Jets banged up on defense and pressing on offense, but the Steelers, they're 5-2, man. They're on top of this AFC North, and they got the Giants next. Now, what's going to be interesting is all of their division. I think 6 of their last 8 games are all their division games, right?
Yep.
So this is going to be an absolute dogfight right to the end.
And it's on Hard Knocks.
Oh, are you serious?
The in-season Hard Knocks is the entire AFC North this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I did not realize that does not computed for me until you just said that.
And it's a win for every single team because Pittsburgh has this compelling season that's unfolding. Obviously, Baltimore with the star power that they have.
Yeah.
The story of Cincinnati trying to climb back out of the
They're
hole.
going to.
And we don't have to see Deshaun Watson for the Browns. So, like, everybody wins.
Yeah. We talked about this.
Don't get a laugh out of that.
No, that was terrific. We'll get to the Browns. The Bengals, we said, look, if they can beat that Giants, and we're like nervous about the Giants, they have the Browns, Eagles, Raiders. They're going to get to 4-4, and they're absolutely going to get to 4-4. They're probably going to be 5-4 going into that game against the Ravens, but then it's at Ravens, at Chargers, Pittsburgh, Dallas. Like that's going to be your defining stretch of the season. But
Dallas,
it's probably not. But it's not like that. It's not like Cincy can run the ball, right? So that's kind of the issue. Yeah, I think that the Bengals are going to be kind of in this. I don't know that they're going to be a contender to like win the division, but someone's got to be the 6 and 7 seeds in the AFC. And I think the Bengals are pretty well positioned amongst the 5 teams or so that I think could be in that conversation.
Right, because they're at 3. They will beat the Raiders. They will beat the Titans. That's 5. They will beat the Browns again. So that's 6. Right. Then you get into if you beat the Chargers head to head.
That's huge. That's a huge game.
That's a massive game in week 11.
Yeah.
It's a 4:25 game on November 17th. Put it on your calendar now for playoff implications with the way the AFC is shaping out. That's a massive game.
Yeah.
For a team that wants to run the ball versus a team that can't really stop the run. Right. Well, that was what the Bengals managed to do that against the Browns, and it won them a football game by 7 points.
You want to go Browns? You want to go Chiefs? We got to get to both.
Let's get this game out of the way. The Browns game first. Bengals win 21-14. Deshaun Watson tears his Achilles. Cincinnati gets a opening kickoff return for a touchdown, kind of start the game. So it's not like you could really look at Cleveland and what they did and be like, well, they had a great day. I mean, they didn't run the ball at all. Right. But the straw that stirred the drink was T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Contract year T. Higgins is turning into quite a player, isn't he?
Yeah, he sure is.
He's been a huge catalyst for them this season.
Man, you're not kidding. The running numbers in this game were terrible. 21 for 77 for the Browns and 25 for 59 for the Bengals. AFC North football, baby. Yeah, not really.
Dude, Cincinnati was 2 of 14 on 3rd and 4th down in this game.
Yikes! We mentioned that Burrow's had his challenges with this team. So we think the Bengals have a chance to kind of go on a run here. I mean, I think we got to at least comment on Deshaun Watson season-ending injury. This is going to cost him next year probably too. And it's a hard conversation to have. Maybe like when you ultimately look at the trajectory of how he was playing and kind of the unwavering commitment that the team had in him, there's probably a good case to be made that they have a great opportunity to kind of be better at quarterback, right?
Right. I think they will be better at quarterback this season. And I know Spot Rack has really gotten into, I don't know how up to speed you are with this kind of stuff, but like insurance policies on.
I've heard a lot about this. Yeah.
Right. Like it's one of the, I guess it's been a bigger thing, but it's coming more into the forefront recently. And like, it was a part of the discussion with Tua Tagovailoa. And so like Spot Rack, I want to make sure I get the numbers right for this year, but like the Browns will retroactively, like in future years, they will get a cap credit for missed time for a portion of Deshaun Watson's fully guaranteed salary. What a hit.
Boy.
Are they going to close this loophole or what? Like,
man, I hate to call this a best case scenario, but it kind of is, man.
Right. Because there's no longer the obligation to play him because of what you're paying him. And anytime that's the primary motivating factor of playing a player or playing a player,
keep going.
Playing a payer, you're playing a player. Holy cow. Anytime that's the primary motivation for doing it, it's not going to work well. And I think you've seen that with Cleveland now. But if it does carry into next year, you would assume that there are additional portions or prorations of his guaranteed salary that the Browns could be looking at recouping in that regard as well. And in that case, that eases the decision to maybe carry him on the PUP or the non-football injury list or like whatever for next year. And then you're just going to say, well, it's the last year of your contract in 26. We're just going to eat it. And you're going to be out of here.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to live on PUP next year. That'd be my guess. So interesting that DTR was the number 2, and he was a disaster, 11 of 24, 2 picks. So we'll see what they do with Winston and how they can rally and set their path moving forward. But I don't think nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to matter this year. They're 1-6.
Right. They're a team that should continue to look to selling. Yeah. And I know we talked about that last week as well. So just before we go to break, I know we got to go to break. We'll get into 49ers, Chiefs, a bunch more games to get into. Joe Corey, who does work for CBS, former agent, just short of $14 million of Deshaun Watson's 2024 compensation is insured. The Browns received $202,000 of 2024 salary cap relief when he missed time in 2023 over the cap. The $13.9 million in compensation has been insured by the Browns, which should lead to a small salary cap credit for the team in 2025. These insurance policies are becoming much more prevalent as NFL contracts continue to soar.
All right, we're talking Chiefs, Seahawks, and more on the other side of it, folks. Be sure to stick with us. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And I hope that you tailed me this week, folks. I told you Lions money line. I told you Chiefs money line. I also got in on some props. I had Josh Allen over 250 passing yards. I had Najee Harris over on his rushing yards. I did well. And so maybe you can as well. Check it out over at FanDuel. Again, this deal's incredible. $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Check it out, folks. That's FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook.
Let's talk about the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs with NFL interception leader Patrick Mahomes at the helm. What a weird dynamic this is. Yeah. Patrick has 6 touchdown passes and 8 interceptions on the season. And the Chiefs are the last undefeated team in the NFL.
Like objectively not playing well.
Their skill players are a mess. Pat himself's not playing great, but he flips the switch when he has to because it's what the GOATs do.
They just know how to win, man. They just do. And it's not necessarily because they play good for 60 minutes. They just know how to be in that position and win a game.
Right. What's that saying? There's, in any given game, 5 to 8 plays that ultimately determine the outcome of the game. And more often than not, Kansas City's getting 75% of them every single week.
So they're 6-0. And I'm not doing this. Last year, my whole point was their 15th ranked scoring offense.
They're coming back down to earth.
And then
you can get them.
There it is.
You can get them.
Boom. Here it is. You and I both got to see that in the playoffs.
Not fun.
No, it's not. So the 49ers, 3-4, man. They're 3-4, and it's like Purdy throws 3 picks, but Trent Williams gets thrown out of the game. Debo can't finish because he's sick. Ayuk blows out his knee. Trent Williams gets thrown out of the game. If I've already said that, I'm sorry. It's like, dude, everything kind of just spirals for the 49ers at once. Of course, they don't have McCaffrey, but this was their revenge Super Bowl game, man.
Feels like it's like this every 3 years for San Francisco, where they just have a year where everybody gets hurt. Everything goes wrong. I mean, that's how they got Nick Bosa.
Correct.
Was that year.
Did you see the Shanahan stat?
No.
They are 0-40 when trailing by 8 or more points in the fourth quarter.
Brother, I'm living this in Miami land. Because
40 though, Kyle.
Yeah,
Crabbs.
I'm living this in Miami land. It's the element of your offensive structure is designed, and all of your pass concepts are designed to be built off of run action plays, right? they don't have a very robust, true drop back passing type of game. And the critique for the Miami side of this, and they lost to the Colts by 6 points and were up 10-0 and gave up 16 unanswered. But Tyreek Hill had 2 touches and Jalen Waddle had 1 catch for 11 yards. Like, they can't just do basic 3-5-step drop back game with concepts that work because it's not where they put their time. And as a result, like, the Dolphins just can't buy easy completions in routine passing game for their pass catchers. And in any game situation, if you have to strip everything down, right? And the entire ideology is, oh, well, the system's going to cover for the overlaps for the offensive line, and we're going to coach the plays because we're going to call the plays that look like one thing, and then we're going to have to counter off of that, and that's how we're going to have the answers to move the ball down the field. Strip all that away. You're down 10 points. What do? You have to call drop back passing. And now you haven't invested in the offensive line in the way that is general consensus necessary at the NFL level, because your ideology, and when it works, it's great. But if you strip all that down and you say, well, we need to take true pass sets, we're not going to waste our time with the flash fakes with the ball or the run action, and we're not going to sell the run with the horizontal run game, and we just got to drop back and do 5-step drop back passing game in the pocket and read the field with progressions. They don't have it. It's not a punch in their bag. And so you want to beat these kinds of teams, get on top of them early.
That's a tough way to make a living, man.
They're structurally not built to do it at a high level.
They're game script dependent.
Yeah.
0 for 40.
Yeah. I'm not surprised at all by that stat.
Man, come on. 40.
I'm not surprised at all by that stat.
Dude, it couldn't be 2 and 38.
Brother, they've sat here and sat here and collected quarterbacks that are just an avatar of Kyle Shanahan on the field. And that's not a shot at Brock Purdy and what he is as a player, but he is an extension of Kyle Shanahan as a player on the field. He sees the game how Kyle sees it. He executes it the way Kyle wants it executed. And you want to get into system quarterbacks or not system. Like, I don't care about any of that because, like, I think that's generally fluff. He's a quality starter at the NFL level. But when you take away the principle, and this goes back to what we were just complimenting Detroit for at the very beginning of the show, they have so many different ways that they can play you because of how they call games, what their philosophy is, and how their team is built.
The Super Bowl quarterbacks from last year combined to throw 0 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and neither has a passer rating above 45.
Barn burner, baby. What we all expected.
So the Seahawks got to be pretty happy right now.
Yeah.
They're on top of this division. They're 4-3. They're a confusing football team. I don't know how good they are or not, but someone's going to win this division.
I'll be 4-4 next week because they play your team.
It's
in who farts around with teams and then is like, okay, that's enough. Let's go.
It's annoying as hell, man.
Well, you poor thing. You want to trade seasons?
No, I don't want to trade seasons, but it's pretty annoying to know what you're capable of and come out and just play with your food. Atlanta, they smoked them 34-14. Smoked them in Atlanta after losing 3 in a row to the Lions, Giants, and 49ers. Who are the Seahawks? Are they the class of this NFC West? Can they do it? They already have the head-to-head loss to San Francisco, so that doesn't help. And San Francisco looked really good against them. But they host Buffalo next, host the Rams at the Niners. They still have Green Bay. They've got Minnesota. Are you buying in on Seattle? They got 3 takeaways against Atlanta. Obviously, that's going to help you out.
I mean, that almost doubled their season total. They had 4 turnovers for the season coming into this game.
I know that I feel like you've been, I don't know what the right word is, but like, I think like you've been like pushed back a little bit on Seattle. Now DK got hurt. I don't know what the deal is
right now. Yeah, I'd be concerned for DK. And I know from a, that graph where it's like, how bad were we beat this week?
Yeah.
The team that had the biggest disparity between the final score and like the performance measure for that, how bad were we beat script was Seattle. It was like Atlanta outplayed them in a number of phases but Seattle won the game. That happens when you get a defensive touchdown, right? Derek Hall with the big fumble recovery. And I'm not taking anything away from Seattle. I think they can. Seattle is the kind of team where they have the offensive weapons, and I do think they have the quarterback in Geno. They could step on the field in any given week, and they can win the game, and I would not be surprised.
Right. That makes them impossible to figure out, though.
Right. It makes them a very challenging team to kind of wrap your head around definitively stating this is what they are. I think this team has the potential to be defined by the next 3 weeks or the next 3 games. Buffalo, home against the Rams, at San Francisco with a bye after the Rams game.
They need to get 2 of those if they can.
If you get 2 of those, and now you're 6-4 after 10 games. You're home against the Cardinals, at the Jets, at the Cardinals, home against the Packers and Vikings, and then you're at Chicago, at Rams to close the season. I could see 10 wins. I could see 7 wins. Right? And it's the consistency, and does the time on task help you? I think the challenging thing to reconcile is losing that game in New York the way that you did. And look, you had a game-tying field goal, and it was blocked and returned for a touchdown. You lost by 9 points. Like, what the hell are you doing there? Fascinating team, but they didn't turn the ball over for the first time in 4 games.
Yeah.
So they need to be a team that if you don't beat yourself, you're going to give yourself a chance to win on any given week.
I sort of feel like Seattle's going to hover around 500, maybe be a little bit above it. Is it more about Seattle, or is it more about San Francisco, and if they can figure it out? Is San Francisco the more likely team that kind of things get away from them this year with some of the injuries that are already compounded?
Well, they are fortunate to get the bye in week 9. So they have home against the Cowboys and then the bye. Could not come at a better time because they're going to need to recalibrate. But then they come out of the bye, and 3 of their 4 games are on the road at Tampa, at Green Bay, and at Buffalo. Hey, this is not
they host Seattle in there.
Right.
Don't you? They could get away from them right there.
Yeah. I think
the next 4 games are going to decide the North or the West.
Of what this season's going to look like in the script. It's going to be defined in the next by December 1st for San Francisco. And maybe they hover too. And maybe they float right around and this thing comes right down to the wire. But you don't like that if you're the 49ers because you're 2 out of the last 3 at home, and the home game you get is against the Lions.
Yeah, it's tough.
Who didn't we get to?
We didn't get to a lot of stuff.
Eagles, Saquon Barkley revenge game. You see him run over that Giants defender?
Killed. Yeah, there's body bags all over the field, man. Saquon was personal for him.
The Commanders with Marcus Mariota just absolutely took the Panthers out to the woodshed.
Yeah,
they
Panthers
scored 40, right? It was 40-6.
The Panthers are averaging giving up like mid-30s per game right now. Just an absolute joke of an operation.
Oh, come on, man. They had great defense last year.
Yeah. What was my take on them? That Jairo Ferro was going to get a head coaching job after the season? Yikes. Yikes.
Yeah, we're about a week away. Let's get to week 8, and then we can go back and look at, I guess, week 9. So in 2 weeks, we can go back and look at the bold takes we had for each team.
Midway check-in.
Yeah. Be interesting. Panthers, last 4 games, points allowed per game are 34, 36, 38, and 40 last 4 weeks.
Bad.
That's a tough way to make a living. I could say that. Jaden Daniels injury worth monitoring. Rib injury sounds like he's getting either some tests or some imaging done today. Kind of figure that out. I hope it's nothing, because he's obviously playing at a delightful level for Washington. What else didn't we get to? The Rams. Aiden O'Connell goes down.
Yeah.
Minshew thought it was the holiday season, started giving the football away a little too early. Kyron Williams thought it was Halloween. He's a week too early for Halloween.
Kyron Williams got cranked up late in that game, dude. Big runs.
And then what was it? Kobe Durant was he the guy that had the defensive touchdown on that play?
I think so.
And then they had was it an interception at the end of the game too?
Yeah, Jalen.
Like the Raiders just
3 picks.
10 turnovers offensively the last 3 games for the Raiders.
Not how they're built.
No.
Jaguars hat tip. You beat the Patriots.
Buffalo, we mentioned playing with your food, but they covered. Good teams win, great teams cover. Bills covered.
They did.
And then we kind of glossed on Miami Indy is really the only other game, but
4-3 Colts, Kyle. 4-3.
4-3 Indianapolis Colts with Anthony Richardson.
The worst completion percentage the NFL's ever seen,
brother. That's a very difficult conversation. Can we have that one?
Sure.
Not now. I don't think now's the time to
go right ahead.
No, it could be a whole show about like your prospects as a team now versus the outlook for trying to develop Anthony Richardson. Who gives you a chance to win? How married do you need to be to either ideology? That's kind of what like Pittsburgh's going through, but Pittsburgh got Justin Fields for a bag of chips as compared to a top 10 draft pick with a guy who is not playing good football in Anthony Richardson. But you're 4-3, and Joe Flacco's gives you the same element for vertical down the field, but takes the quarterback run game off the field. Doesn't matter if you have Jonathan. That's a messy one for me.
4-3, but their next game is at Houston, then at Minnesota, then they host the Bills, at the Jets. Okay, then hosting the Lions. Brother, falling off the rails here.
I don't think this team is going to be a wild card team when it's all said and done.
Nope. Now they close with Patriots, Broncos, Titans, Giants, Jaguars. So if they can win all of those,
too little, too late.
This is that's a brutal stretch, brother.
Holy cow! We might have to have a competition and like look at who has the worst like next 5 weeks because there are some bangers out there. You see Jacksonville's next stretch?
Oh, I haven't, but I can only imagine.
I'll pull it up.
We got to do it, huh?
Yeah, we'll float around, produce this thing.
Packers, Eagles, Vikings, Lions, Texans.
Yeah,
it's tough. That's tough too.
So
yikes.
We'll see. We shall see what comes our way. We will react to all of it as it does. We have a couple of games tonight, 2. As a matter of fact, we will react to them tomorrow. In addition to what else you want to do this week?
Talk about the NFL and stuff like that.
Yeah, we'll talk about the NFL and stuff like that. We'll do some draft stuff along the way as well.
Yeah, Wednesday. Prospects. Football. Cam Ward, right?
Cam Ward. We'll find Nick Scorton, Cam Ward.
That defense tackle from Michigan. That's not Mason Grant.
Kenneth Grant.
I've got that queued up.
So that's Wednesday. You have that to look forward to. Come on back and see us. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. I'm Kyle Crabbs. He is Joe Marino. We appreciate you guys checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your day. We will talk to you all again tomorrow.